how do you manage the identity you have within your business or your current role with your side hustle? So it's like if your LinkedIn is like, I am a contractor or consultant at this, but then your side hustle is like, I am this thing. How do you remedy those two identities? And this was something that I was really experiencing in the corporate world in my jobs. So I was in the corporate world for like 8 years. I was in a consulting position for 4 years. I was in finance management consulting. And then I moved to digital media. And then I was in international events. And I was in sales and marketing. So I was kind of all over the place. But what I realized in my last role, it got to the point where I couldn't have two different identities anymore. I could no longer be Krista corporate and then Krista podcast. And that was becoming too painful for me to sort of flip the mask on and off. And I wanted to be able to be myself all the time. And so that was a lot of the reason why, we transitioned out of our corporate jobs to become who we are more often. And I think that's the biggest thing within all of this. It's like, how can you lean to become who you are in every position and be comfortable with that? But I do know that when I was starting Almost 30 and when Almost 30 was really growing in my job, it did make my boss uncomfortable. It made my other coworkers uncomfortable. And it became something I felt like I really had to hide and downplay, which is normal. I mean, I think in any business, if you have someone that has something outside of it that they may leave for eventually, it's uncomfortable. But the way that I really worked with that was at first, I was really open and honest about everything I was doing on the weekends or at night and how hard we were working. And then eventually, unfortunately, I had to more so hide like what successes we had, what we were doing, and just focus on the job at hand. And that was something that I just really had to sort of like suck it up in a way and just do the job that I needed to do and then really focus on Almost 30 whenever I could. But I think the main thing that I just wanted to speak on with this is like, where in our lives are we denying ourselves the opportunity to be in fullest expression of who we are? And how often and how long are we going to continue to do that? And you don't need to be quitting your job right away and burning the place down and being like, I need to be myself all the time. But if you are feeling like there is an uncomfortability about the incongruency of who you are, you need to start making a plan to be yourself more often, because it can be painful to be lying to yourself and lying to the world when you're like, at this corporate job, I am this person and I can only say this and I can only wear this and I can only be doing this. But when I'm off work, I'm all of these things and I'm this fully expressed being. I think it's been far too long where we're denying ourselves like so much of our human experience because we feel like in this structure, we need to be this thing.
Yeah, completely. I come from a little bit of a different background where I haven't been in the corporate space. Can't even say corporate. So,
Fired.
But yeah, it's always, I think just in general, when you are involved in a medium that's new and cool and kind of uncharted, like podcasting was when we started, people are like, huh? You know what I mean? And so there's kind of that too, where you're kind of managing those like judgments and like side eyes of like, what's happening? And yeah, I think I've always been kind of like blinders on with that stuff because I've always done like things that didn't really make a lot of sense to people close to me. But it can be challenging. Like I've talked to a lot of like friends who want to do creative things and they're like, I don't know what people think.
I know.
Yeah. Sad. I mean, not sad. It's just, I think we're kind of on that like edge of like more and more people are expressing themselves creatively and as themselves fully. And so it's less and less weird, less and less something that you need to like closet and not show people. So,
and I think in the corporate space, it felt like tall poppy syndrome a little bit, where it's like, okay, we're all here. We're all in agreement that we're not going to be fully expressed. So this person is going outside of work and they're doing something that they love and they're fully expressing themselves. Like this is going against the code of selling our souls a little bit.
Yeah.
This is not what we signed up for. We signed up to have a low line level of being uncomfortable forever.
And I do think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like in a corporate setting, they could see that and be like, well, are you putting 100%. Enough into your work, even 100%. Though they're not allowed to do that. But like,
oh yeah, that's 100% what would happen. And it's, and that's, and I'm so funny. Like when I was like younger, I'd be like, whatever. Like people have babies and kids, but no one's on their ass about what they're doing with their time outside of work. Like such an asshole. And your space should be a place where you feel like you can express who you are, even if it's like things outside of work. But I know it's a tough one to navigate. So I guess my thing would be to get in right relation with what you're doing, to be confident that you have the right to pursue passions outside of your job. You have the right to explore things you're interested in outside of your job. And you have the right to be yourself more often than you think.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Microdose by Almost 30.
We hope you enjoyed waking up.
As always, we encourage you to take what resonates and leave the rest. If you enjoyed this trip, tune into the full episode on the Almost 30 podcast. All episode information can be found in the show notes.
Make sure to subscribe, and if this becomes a part of your morning routine, be sure to share it with a friend. We have new inspiring doses Monday through Friday. Follow us on Instagram at Morning Microdose, and follow Almost 30 at Almost 30 Podcast.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the vortex.